The author has something to say. Open the article. I am anxious to update the first chapter. Although it's not the first time I've written an article, I'm very nervous every time I start a new one. I usually ask for comments and starfish, okay? 12 in the morning. Liang Muqiu fell on the sofa, feeling a little drunk, and her head was a little dizzy from listening to high-decibel music for a long time. But he glanced at the people around him and saw that they were still playing the game with great interest, guessing that this game would not end in a while. So he picked up the cigarette case from the table, ready to go out for a breath. He went to the garden in the middle of the bar. Although there are many people here, chatting and laughing are very noisy, but it is better than the deafening sound inside. Liang Muqiu sat on the chair, tugged at the collar of his shirt, and breathed a sigh of relief, feeling that he was temporarily relieved. He came to the bar today by accident. He originally wanted to go back to sleep, but was accidentally bumped into his former colleague and dragged him to the bachelorette party to celebrate that his former colleague will become the groom in 3 days. But most of the people in this small party, he doesn't know very well, so he doesn't talk much, and just acts as a quiet atmosphere group. But under the catalysis of alcohol, everyone is familiar with it very quickly, especially Liang Muqiu is really good looking, even if only wearing a simple shirt and jeans, sitting there silently, wave after wave of eyes drifted towards him. Soon a girl sat next to him, clinking glasses to find out if he had a girlfriend. Liang Muqiu doesn't like to deceive people's feelings, she smiles beautifully, no. The girl was obviously more friendly. Liang Muqiu added the next sentence slowly, but I had an ex-boyfriend. The girl was stunned for a moment, then smiled and walked away. Sitting in the garden now, I don't know if it's because of the fresh air, my dazed head is sober. Liang Muqiu recalled his answer just now, and felt that he was somewhat out of his mind. There are thousands of ways to refuse a person, why does he have to choose this sentence? He touched a cigarette from the box, put it in his mouth but didn't light it, staring at the wall in front of him in a trance. As soon as the word ex-boyfriend came out, the girl didn't mind, and smiled at Liang Muqiu knowingly. He was stunned. Because he hasn't thought about it for a long time, he has an ex-boyfriend. A broken ex should be as quiet as dead. On this point, Sen Nan is completely up to the mark. Since he went abroad and dumped him, Sen Nan is like disappearing from the world. For 7 years, Liang Muqiu has not heard a word about him again, which makes him often self-doubt when he returns to his dreams at midnight. Did he really love someone named Sen Nan, or was it all just his delusion? Over time, he will really forget this person, and even need to think carefully before he can recall that person's face. That's why he was so surprised when he blurted out just now, he didn't understand why he thought of that bastard. He thought about it, probably because his former colleague was drunk, he dragged him to talk about his acquaintance and love with his wife since college, which brought back some scattered memories of his past. Because Sen Nan and him also spent time together in college. It's just that my former colleague has achieved a positive result. And they only have 1 sentence left. Liang Muqiu bit the cigarette butt, snorted softly, and said something bad in her heart. He probably had too much alcohol today to think of these messy things. He reached for the lighter in his pocket, ready to go back after smoking a cigarette. Maybe it was time to break up when he went back to the party. But his fingers touched the bag, and it was empty. Liang Muqiu frowned. He patronized the cigarette case and forgot to take the lighter. But he was too lazy to turn back, just happened to be someone passing by, he stopped him and said lazily, "Brother, do you have a lighter, borrow a fire?" The man stopped. I don't know if I didn't understand what Liang Muqiu was asking, he paused for a few seconds before answering, "Yes." Liang Muqiu felt that the voice was a little familiar. But he is a little sleepy now, and the lights in the garden are dim, and several floor lamps are weaker than fireflies, so he can't see the man's face, and he can't see anything wrong for a while. He looked up, "Thank you so much." The last word could not be uttered and dissipated in the slightly cold air. So incompatible with this noisy bar. This face is completely in accordance with Liang Muqiu's aesthetic standards. But he didn't want to appreciate the beauty, and was stunned like a sculpture. The man looked at him for a few seconds, took out a lighter from his pocket, bent down, and lit a cigarette for Liang Muqiu. This person is very tall, even if he gets close, he can't smell the strong alcohol smell, only a faint woody smell, mixed with the smell of lemon and bitter orange. In the flames, Liang Muqiu saw the face on the opposite side more clearly. The blood all over his body seemed to freeze for a second. He read it right. There is a saying that CAO arrived, and he fulfilled it today. It was none other than the one who bent over to light his cigarette, it was the who broke up with him so neatly 7 years ago and travelled across the ocean. Sen Nan. As soon as he remembered the name, the surroundings seemed to be quiet for a moment, as if he was not in a feasting bar, but a snow-capped mountain in a deserted place. The flame went out. Sen Nan's face returned to the darkness. Liang Muqiu wanted to say something subconsciously, but when he opened his mouth, the cigarette he was holding almost fell out. It didn't fall to the ground. It was caught by a slender hand in time, and then returned to Liang Muqiu's lips. "Long time no see," Sen Nan said to him. Liang Muqiu was choked by the phrase "long time no see." He seriously doubted that he didn't read the almanac when he went out today, or how could he recite it? He just accidentally mentioned his ex-boyfriend tonight. This person who should have been on the other side of the ocean suddenly appeared in Benchange like a ghost in the sky. In the bar. And he was as embarrassed and stiff in place as everyone who meets his old love, not knowing whether to slap the other person first, or greet him like a mature adult. For a moment, he looked at Sen Nan eagerly in the dark, hoping that he would be more interesting, be a stranger, and leave on his own. But Sen Nan, the son of a bitch, no matter 7 years ago or 7 years later, he would never do what he wanted, his feet were nailed there like roots, and he remained motionless and looked at him silently. Liang Muqiu had nothing to do, he thought for 2 seconds and decided to be a mature adult. 7 years later, I have to grow a little bit. It's been a long time indeed. Liang Muqiu said. He paused for 2 seconds, put the cigarette in his hand, calmed down, and said, "Why are you here? Shouldn't you be abroad?" "I'm back in China," Sen Nan's voice was calm, "I won't go out again." Liang Muqiu almost choked on the smoke. His eyes widened, he didn't expect to get this answer, although he had this guess when he saw Sen Nan, but when he heard it, he still felt incredible. After all, one of the reasons this dumped him in the first place was to settle abroad. And now he's back. Liang Muqiu thought, this is nothing to ride a horse. But no matter what, it doesn't matter whether Sen Nan goes abroad or returns. If he had just broken up, he would have smashed the wine bottle on Sen Nan's face to let him feel why the flowers were so red. But now, 7 years later, he has also learned to be generous. No matter how strong the love and hate when I was young, to this day, there are only greetings left. So even though he knew that Sen Nan couldn't see him, he still smiled and said calmly, "That's it, it's good, congratulations on returning to China. My friend is still inside, let's go first." After finishing speaking, Liang Muqiu didn't give Sen Nan another chance to take another sentence, and turned around without hesitation and left. And when I returned to the deck, the people around were still playing wine orders. He stopped participating, but took a sip of the iced lemonade on the table. It wasn't until he couldn't see Sen Nan, sitting among a group of strangers, that he was relieved from the panic just now, and the restless heart in his chest seemed to calm down a little. He stared at the wine bottles on the table, suddenly smiled and cursed. The boy next to him heard it and asked him drunk, "What's the matter?" He chuckled and shook his head, "It's nothing, I just think God is really blind. I haven't seen each other for 7 years, and my ex-boyfriend is even more handsome." The author has something to say, Sen Nan, there are 10,000 swear words, but I can't scare my wife. Although I haven't caught up yet, the party ended past 2. Before this, the groom Tobe had grabbed everyone's hands and told the story of his love with his wife, and was shoved under the table by everyone to show his resentment. The wind in the early morning of April was still a little cold. He was wearing thin clothes today, and he couldn't help shivering in the wind. While he was giving up and considering whether to find a hotel nearby, a black Maserati stopped right in front of him. In his suspicious gaze, the car window lowered, revealing a face he had just seen 2 hours ago. Sen Nan. His handsome ex, full of scum, looked at him from the driver's seat and asked, "Are you going back and can't get a taxi?" Liang Muqiu thought this was nonsense. Did I look like I was meditating on the side of the road? He saw that Sen Nan was not pleasing to the eye, and did not want to answer. He nodded perfunctorily. Sen Nan didn't care, and asked again, "Where do you live? I'll take you." Liang Muqiu was stunned. He looked at Sen Nan. "Didn't you drink just now? It's illegal to drive under the influence of alcohol, so I won't be fooled." "I didn't drink, and I didn't come to the nightclub today," Sen Nan said. "The bar owner is my friend. I came to him just now for something." Liang Muqiu didn't want to get in the car either. Drinking and climbing into her ex-boyfriend's car, no matter how it sounds like the beginning of a book of literature, and then it's time to mess up your personality after drinking. He said, "Forget it, I'll take a taxi by myself, you don't have to worry about me." Sen Nan turned his head to look at him. "Why, are you still afraid of what I will do to you?" Liang Muqiu was a little embarrassed by being hit with a red heart. Sen Nan didn't mind either, but instead said, "I promise I'll just take you home. Even if we break up, we're still old schoolmates. It's hard to get a taxi here, and you've been drinking too much. It's not safe outside, come up quickly." He said it so gracefully that it seemed that Liang Muqiu thought too much. Liang Muqiu bit her lower lip. He doesn't really like staying in hotels. At this moment, a cold wind was blowing. He shook a little, thought about it, and still gave in. "Thank you." He opened the car door and sat in. "Just take me to Yuhaiwan." After getting in the car, Liang Muqiu was still a little embarrassed, so he just pretended to sleep in the seat. Anyway, he was drunk, it was good enough not to be drunk. Sen Nan probably had nothing to say to him, and kept driving quietly. But more than 10 minutes after the car drove out, the phone in his pocket vibrated and rang several times. Liang Muqiu took a look and found that it was his best friend Song Wei's WeChat. "Are you asleep? If you don't get back to me, help." There is also a crying emoji at the bottom. Liang Muqiu raised her eyebrows, not knowing what he was doing in the middle of the night, and replied, "Wake up." Almost as soon as Liang Muqiu replied to the message, his cell phone rang like a reminder. He picked it up, and before he could ask Song Wei what he wanted to do, he heard Song Wei's pretentious voice. "Hey dear, you haven't slept yet, did I leave the USB drive at your house last time, can you send it to me tomorrow?" "What the hell?" Liang Muqiu looked disgusted. He hadn't heard Song Wei's disgusting voice for many years. But the many years of tacit understanding between friends and friends made him instantly understand what Song Wei meant. He silently swallowed the spit, and said perfunctorily, "It seems that there is a USB flash drive, are you in a hurry? I'll find it for you tomorrow." "It's not that urgent, just send it before tomorrow night, you go to bed early." Liang Muqiu really couldn't answer one, so she hung up the phone with and decided in her heart to make a hot pot as a compensation fee. During the process of answering the phone, Sen Nan was very quiet, he didn't even look away, but his hand holding the steering wheel tightened. When he hung up, Sen Nan asked, "Is that guy on the opposite side your boyfriend?" Liang Muqiu was silent for a while, knowing that Sen Nan did not hear Song Wei's voice. When he was in love with Sen Nan back then, Song Wei also followed him for food and drink. Sen Nan should not forget that there is such a person. But he didn't explain, instead he said He even made a joke, you have broken up with me for so many years, I can't keep empty windows, it's too bad. Sen Nan's expression did not change. Yes, you have always been popular. When I was in school, Liang Mukia was the Department of Drama and Literature, and Sen Nan was the flower of the law department. They are quite a match. But no matter how good it is a thing of the past. Liang Mukia didn't want to recall these old things. His eyes swept over Sen Nan's hand on the steering wheel, and asked like a joke, "Don't talk about me, you and Ruan Zuxian, are you married, how are you?" When he mentioned this, there was still a subtle pain in his heart. He has not forgotten why Sen Nan left him back then, because Sen Nan decided to settle there after studying abroad, and also because Sen Nan abandoned him and chose to be engaged to his childhood sweetheart Ruan Zuxian. He knew about this, and he heard it from his senior brother who didn't know his relationship with Sen Nan, so he said enviously, "Sen Nan is really lucky to marry Ruan Zuxian, is such a beautiful and gentle eldest lady, no wonder they went abroad together at that time, and their relationship is that the fiancé couples build a love nest together. It is indeed a great good thing to tie the knot as a childhood sweetheart." Besides him, his face turned pale, the tip of the pen in his hand accidentally plunged into the flesh, but he didn't feel pain. But when I recall it now, the scene of that day seems to have become blurred, and there is only a residual pain left. He glanced sideways at Sen Nan. When he first broke up, he never thought that he would become so calm one day. But now he looks at Sen Nan's face and can even laugh casually. Sen Nan is indeed as handsome as ever, exuding charm, suitable for appearing in every girl's dream. But unfortunately, it's scum. So he didn't want to have anything to do with Sen Nan. He is ready to listen to Sen Nan tell how happy he is now, his wife is harmonious, and his children are lovely. But Sen Nan didn't let him get his wish. After listening to this, Sen Nan frowned deeply and glanced at him almost in surprise. "Ruan Zuxian." There was doubt in his voice. "Why should I marry her?" Liang Mukia froze there, caught off guard by this sentence. "No, the two of you." He was a little incoherent. "Didn't you go abroad together on purpose, and then, when Ruan Zuxian is old, won't you get engaged?" Sen Nan stopped the car. It happened to be another traffic light. The streets are empty late at night. The light of the neon lights is cold, and the musical fountain in the square next to it is quiet, and there is silence everywhere. Sen Nan turned his head with serious eyes. "Who told you?" Liang Mukia was looking at him like this. I don't know why he lost his confidence. I don't know if it was his illusion. After he said this, for a moment, he felt that Sen Nan wanted to curse. The car was quiet for half a minute. The irritability in Sen Nan's eyes gradually eased. He sighed and said earnestly, "I don't know what is said in the school, and what you misunderstood. But Ruan Zuxian and I are only childhood sweethearts. She knows me. If I like a man, it is impossible for me to marry her. We will go abroad together, just because she happens to apply for a foreign university. We have never been together from beginning to end." Liang Mukia was completely stunned. He looked at Sen Nan's hand subconsciously, and he noticed just now that both of Sen Nan's hands were clean and did not wear a wedding ring. He thought that Sen Nan didn't like wearing rings. But now, Sen Nan has denied his guess. "It's not that I don't like it, it's not at all." He didn't know what to show for a while, or even whether he should believe it or not. He subconsciously wanted to ask Sen Nan, "You were not with Ruan Zuxian, so why did you break up with me in the first place?" But just as he was about to blurt out, the green light came on. Sen Nan turned his head and looked forward again. Liang Mukia didn't ask anything. He relaxed and fell back into the seat. "It doesn't seem interesting to entangle this issue after breaking up, it's just that he's brooding. Ruan Zuxian is fake, but it is always true that Sen Nan wants to break up with him." He heard Sen Nan say again, "I am abroad and have always been single. This is really nice, but it's too late." He closed his eyes, then hung up an indifferent smile, and said, "Who are you lying to?" He seems to be back in high school again. He hasn't become a lover with Sen Nan, he's just an ordinary classmate who laughs and scolds, he can joke around. Even if you are not with Ruan Zuxian, with your body and appearance, there are some girls and boys in foreign countries who will pounce on you. If you change one every month, you won't have a heavy look, how can you be an ascetic? Sen Nan did not refute, but said lightly, there are quite a few, but none of them are my favorite. The author has something to say, Sen Nan, are you surprised or not? Liang Muqiu, Tui. The journey after that was silent. I don't know if the alcohol is coming up. Liang Muqiu was really sleepy in the second half of the road, half asleep and half awake, with only a little residual consciousness left. It wasn't until Sen Nan parked the car in the underground garage and patted him for a while that he opened his eyes with difficulty. It's home. Sen Nan looked at him, it's time to get off. Liang Muqiu touched the corner of her mouth subconsciously, afraid that she had just slept and drooled, and her old lover would meet in a narrow way, so she still needed face. Sen Nan frowned as if he knew what he was thinking. Then what? Thank you for sending me back. Liang Muqiu half opened the car door, it's so late now, I won't invite you to come up and sit down, see you in the future. This is obviously a rude politeness. He didn't want to invite Sen Nan for tea, and he also thought from the bottom of his heart that he had no relationship with Sen Nan. But as soon as he got out of the car, he found that Sen Nan followed him, with the coat on one hand, tall and straight, and stood out in the parking lot. He couldn't help raising his eyebrows suspiciously and asked, what are you doing down here? Do you want to borrow a toilet from my house? There is a public toilet outside the parking lot, so turn left when you go out. Sen Nan's mouth twitched. Whether it was at school or now, he couldn't keep up with Liang Muqiu's overly lively brain circuits. He closed the door, locked the car, and explained slowly, I forgot to tell you just now, I actually live here too, 1102, 11th floor, Building 8, Royal River Garden. After speaking, regardless of Liang Muqiu's reaction, she opened her legs and walked towards the elevator. Liang Muqiu was dumbfounded. What? It was across from his house. He watched Sen Nan walk to the elevator, took out his door card and swiped the elevator. Yes, it is indeed the access card of their community. Aren't you coming? Sen Nan said calmly, the elevator is coming soon. Liang Muqiu was still immersed in the blow, it was just messy in the wind, it took a while to recover, and reluctantly moved to the elevator. He gritted his teeth and looked at Sen Nan's happy face. He only felt that he was exactly the same as high school. On the surface, he was gentle and dignified, but he was actually full of bad water. He can swear by his dog Sun, this man must have done it on purpose. He knew his address early in the morning, but didn't tell him. He was really puzzled, and when he got into the elevator, he couldn't help but ask, how long have you been back to China? How can you live right across from my house with so many residences and districts in Benchange? Are you doing this on purpose? He didn't say this, he held back, not wanting to appear self-indulgent. Sen Nan looked innocent, I have been flying back and forth at home and abroad for the past 6 months, and I have no time to see the house. And I have no place to settle in Benchange, so I entrusted a friend to help me find it. The house. He chose it, not me. This is a sounding statement. But Liang Muqiu didn't believe a word. But he had no evidence, not to mention that Sen Nan had just kindly sent him home. He could only turn his head away from Sen Nan, kept his mouth flat and did not speak, and a picture was reflected in the elevator mirror puffy face. Sen Nan didn't bother him, just looked at him from the corner of his eye. When the elevator was about to reach the 11th floor, Sen Nan suddenly said, do you remember, there was a power outage in high school, and we were almost trapped in the library elevator. Liang Muqiu was taken aback. He glanced at Sen Nan consciously, and Sen Nan just happened to look at him. Liang Muqiu certainly remembers. Because it was his first time, he had a subtle heartbeat for Sen Nan. But he quickly replied, I don't remember. The elevator reached the 11th floor. There are only 2 residents on the first floor of this community, door to door, with a corridor in the middle. Before Sen Nan's good night could be said, the door of Liang Muqiu's house slammed shut, mercilessly telling the master's attitude. Only Sen Nan was left in the corridor, and there was a row of warm yellow wall lamps. Sen Nan stood there for a while and smiled helplessly. The temper is still the same. He said softly, opened the door and returned to his home. He turned on the light. The room was really deserted, the furniture was brand new, there was no smoke, like an empty house that no one had visited for a long time. On the shelf in the living room, there are many photos, vaguely a group photo of 2 young people together, which is the only breath of life in the house. Liang Muqiu rushed into the house as fast as possible, took a shower, and changed into pajamas, but she was not sleepy. He was very sleepy downstairs just now, but was frightened by Sen Nan, and now there is no sleepiness. He grabbed his phone and looked at it for a while, and found that Song Wei had sent him a message 10 minutes ago. He thought about it and called Song Wei. The pickup is quick. Hello, who is it? Song Wei laughed over there. Someone wants to unspoken rules for you. It's not as good as the unspoken rules, anyway, it has some practical value, Song Wei sighed, it's a long story, I was entangled by a little wolf dog, I look good, but too young now, I'm embarrassed to start, so I'll block you. Liang Muqiu snorted, not surprised. Song Wei has the same sexual orientation as him. But since he started working, he has been reclusive, and the chance of getting into trouble has been greatly reduced. Song Wei is different. He is born with a soft face, outgoing and easy to talk, and he is kind to everyone, so there are countless rotten peach blossoms. Since college, he has been protecting Song Wei from peach blossoms, and even loaned Sen Nan out to survive the scene. Song Wei asked him, why didn't you sleep so late, is the party just finished, is it fun, are there any handsome guys? Liang Muqiu just wanted to answer no, but stopped. I can't say no. There is one. He rolled over on the bed, looked at the ceiling, and wanted a cigarette again. You still know this man? Song Wei became curious. Who is it? Liang Muqiu said quietly, my ex-husband, Sen Nan. Song only had time to react. But when he realized the meaning of the word ex-husband, he almost dropped the phone on the ground. Liang Muqiu took the phone away with foresight. How could it be possible? Song Wei didn't quite believe it. Didn't he settle abroad? Why did he come back suddenly? This questioned Liang Muqiu. Good question, he wanted to know too. Who knows, Liang Muqiu said, maybe he found foreign food too unpalatable, or the mother of the motherland. Anyway, he said he was going to live in China. Song Wei was even more surprised. But he and Sen Nan have never been very familiar. He always felt that under Sen Nan's handsome and outstanding appearance, there was a coldness that separated him from everyone, and he didn't care about anyone except in front of Liang Muqiu. So he is racking his brains now, and he can only recall the general appearance of Sen Nan, holding an umbrella with Sen Nan and bowing his head to kiss Liang Muqiu. He shook his head, tossing this picture out of his mind, and finally remembered something. Isn't he still with Ruan Zuxian? Song Wei was still angry when he remembered this. He had always thought that Sen Nan was too good to Liang Muqiu until this matter made him think twice. It was about to be split. Did he break up when he returned to China, or did he come back with Ruan Zuxian? He's not with Ruan Zuxian. Liang Muqiu interrupted Song Wei, but he believed that Sen Nan didn't lie. Because Sen Nan is disdainful. It may be that the two of them went abroad together, and they are childhood sweethearts. The parents on both sides seem to have intentions too, and the rumor is wrong for some reason, Liang Muqiu said, but it doesn't matter to me whether he gets married or not. Even if there's no one else. It's always a fact that he broke up with me. When he and Sen Nan were still together, he knew that Ruan Zuxian and Sen Nan were a good match, and their parents had a good relationship. If he didn't kill him halfway, Sen Nan's original unmoved appearance, maybe he would think that a marriage of interests would be good. Song Wei hesitated for a while on the other end of the phone. She wanted to say something, but she didn't know where to start. At any rate, he was half a witness of Liang Muqiu's love, and he knew how helpless Liang Muqiu was after Sen Nan left. In the end he could only ask carefully, "Then how do you feel when you see him? How does it feel?" Liang Muqiu pursed her lower lip subconsciously, a little absent-minded. In the elevator just now, Sen Nan was half a meter away from him, but he seemed to be completely wrapped in Sen Nan's breath, standing uneasy and had nowhere to hide. The same is true in the bar, with so many people in the garden. The moment Sen Nan bent down to set fire to him, he subconsciously remembered how Sen Nan bowed his head under the tree and kissed him in college. It has been so many years. They parted ways long ago. But he was still so useless. "I don't know, don't ask." Liang Muqiu closed his eyes. "Anyway, we have nothing to do with each other, I don't want to care about him." He concealed the fact that Sen Nan lived opposite him, because he knew that Song Wei would definitely jump up. "You'd better." Song Wei also sighed again. "Forget it, I'm too lazy to say it, you know it all. It's been so many years, you should let it go, sleep early." Liang Muqiu paused. "Well, you also go to bed earlier." Liang Muqiu hung up the phone and lay on the bed, keeping her face up for a long time, motionless. He talked to Song Wei originally to relieve the depression in his heart, but when he finished speaking, he found that not only was he in a bad mood, but his heart was still chiseled by a small hammer, causing hidden pain on. Of course he also knows that he and Sen Nan have been over for many years. But the more he showed his teeth and claws in front of Sen Nan and didn't take Sen Nan seriously, the more disappointed and uneasy he felt. Seriously, he has been with Sen Nan since high school, they went to the same university, lived together, dated, and planned the future together, just like every ordinary couple would do. He once thought that he would live with Sen Nan forever, they would love each other and grow old together. But Sen Nan left halfway and left him alone. He still remembers that he received a call from Sen Nan in the apartment they rented together. On the phone, Sen Nan broke up with him neatly. Sen Nan had been abroad for a year at that time. Even if she wanted to separate from him, Sen Nan was decent, and said in a gentle tone that he was going to settle abroad and would never come back, so he didn't want to delay him. It was so nice to say, it gave him plenty of leeway. But he didn't want this decency. He cried hysterically like every abandoned person, collapsed and asked if Sen Nan was in love with someone else. "I can go to you, Sen Nan, it doesn't matter, I can also apply to foreign schools," he choked with tears. "I'll apply now, soon, you don't want me," but Sen Nan did not answer. Sen Nan, who always let him, picked him up and kissed, was silent in his cries, like a Buddha who closed his mouth. After a long time, Sen Nan said, "Don't make trouble, we won't get back together if you come. Much you, follow your pace, live the life you want, don't waste it on me time." These are the last words Sen Nan left him. Let him live the life he wants. If it were the 28-year-old Liang Muqiu, he would think this was right. But at the age of 21 he couldn't. A life without Sen Nan is not what he wants at all. He didn't give up, even if Sen Nan said they broke up, he still studied the process of going abroad and prepared materials, like every desperate young man, to save his lover. But when he was preparing all this, he heard that Sen Nan did not go abroad alone, and his childhood sweetheart Ruan Zuxian also went out together. He also heard that Sen Nan and Ruan Zuxian were engaged. It broke his heart more than 10,000 words of breaking up. He can bear that Sen Nan doesn't love him, he can work hard to save Sen Nan, but he can't accept that Sen Nan betrays him. Liang Muqiu felt a headache when she thought of these messy things in the past. She wrapped herself in the quilt and rolled into a silkworm chrysalis. He still remembers that when he first heard the news, he could still pretend to be calm, and when he left the teaching building, the materials and books in his hands were scattered on the floor. He squatted on the ground to pick it up for a long time, but because his hands were shaking too much, he couldn't pick it up for a long time. Pedestrians who passed by that day would not know what happened to this young man who was squatting on the ground crying bitterly, but they should all feel sorry for him. That is, from that day on, he decided to let go of Sen Nan. Everything was fine, and he gradually adapted to life without Sen Nan. But 7 years later, Sen Nan actually appeared in front of him again, and said firmly that he and Ruan Zuxian had never been together. Liang Muqiu buried her face in the quilt, thinking that this is nothing. He didn't dare to write such a ridiculous script. It's not that popular anymore. The author has something to say. After a long time, Liang Muqiu was asked why he was with Sen Nan again. Although Sen Nan lived in the opposite door, Liang Muqiu didn't think he would really have much interaction with him. Because he is a screenwriter, he is accustomed to seclusion. He often only goes out once a week, and hardly meets his neighbors. He has been busy rushing a script these days, and his days and nights have been reversed, and he almost forgot his last name, let alone think of Sen Nan. For 4 days, he did not step out of the house. After sending the first 3 episodes of the script for review, he breathed a sigh of relief in front of the computer, feeling like he was alive. He touched his shriveled belly, and finally remembered that he was barely a human and could not live on milk and fruit alone, so he stood up to look for food. Not even a steak left. It's okay to order takeout, but it will take at least half an hour to deliver. Between going out and eating noodles, Liang Muqiu painfully chose the latter. But Liang Muqiu's cooking skills have never been very good. Although it was the simplest vermicelli, it was overcooked by him, and there were no side dishes, only a shabby poached egg. He was unhappy after taking 2 bites, and resignedly prepared to order takeout. Just as he was flipping through his phone, the doorbell rang. Liang Muqiu raised her eyebrows suspiciously, wondering who would look for him at this time, not even the express delivery. During his hesitation, the doorbell rang again. Liang Muqiu stood up, walked to the entrance, glanced out from the screen, and was stunned. The person standing outside the door is none other than Sen Nan, wearing a grey sweater and trousers, looking very homely. Liang Muqiu frowned, thought about it, and opened the door. He stuck his head out from behind the door and asked unkindly, "What are you doing here?" Sen Nan has a good attitude. "Come to borrow black pepper and hot sauce from you. I just moved, and I didn't buy all the things. I was cooking at home and found that the pepper was gone," Sen Nan said politely. "Do you have any at home?" Liang Muqiu. He never imagined that the reason why Sen Nan came to the door was so down to earth. Liang Muqiu didn't have the embarrassment to refuse after all, and borrowing something from neighbors is not a big deal. He took a step back. "There should be. Come in and see. I don't know which one you want." Sen Nan followed him into the door. "Excuse me. Although Liang Muqiu's house does not fire, there are a lot of seasonings." Sen Nan borrowed 2 cans of seasoning, and when he passed by the restaurant, he saw that there was only a bowl of noodles in clear soup on the table, and it had already risen. He frowned and asked Liang Muqiu, "You just eat this?" Liang Muqiu was also a little embarrassed, as if he had no ability to take care of himself. Even if you are embarrassed in front of others, it is still Sen Nan. "Well, I just finished work, and it's too late to do anything else," Liang Muqiu said vaguely. "Okay, it's none of your business, just grab your things and leave." Sen Nan refused. Sen Nan frowned and looked at him for a while, then grabbed him involuntarily. "Don't eat this, I just happened to cook." "You come and eat together." Liang Muqiu was stunned. But Sen Nan's movements were too natural, and his strength was far greater than his. Being pulled outside the door by Sen Nan, his door slammed shut in front of him. Liang Muqiu stared at the closed door, choked silently, and wanted to slap Sen Nan. "Why should I go to your house for dinner?" Liang Muqiu pulled out his hand, but failed. it's not that I can't order takeout. Sen Nan seemed to be deaf. In the end, Liang Muqiu was pressed by Sen Nan at his dining table. Sen Nan poured him a glass of juice, and pushed a basket of freshly baked garlic bread in front of him. The food will be ready soon, you should eat some bread to cushion it first. There are also snacks over there. I want to eat and take it myself. Then Sen Nan entered the kitchen. Liang Muqiu thought, he should take the opportunity to sneak back to his home quickly. But that basket of garlic bread was too good. This is more tempting than heaven for a person who has been hungry all day. Liang Muqiu was defeated after struggling for a few seconds. He broke off a piece of bread angrily, thinking, forget it, it will be fine to eat a meal. Sen Nan's kitchen is semi-open, and you can see the inside of the kitchen from the dining table. Liang Muqiu broke the bread and couldn't stop looking at Sen Nan. Sen Nan was dressed at home, without hairspray and hanging loosely, holding a spatula instead of an official document, which suddenly weakened the usual sharpness, the sharp edge, more gentle and refined. It's quite able to fool people, Liang Muqiu thought, and she doesn't know when Sen Nan learned to cook. When he and Sen Nan lived together, neither of them knew how to cook. They either went out to eat hand in hand or ordered takeout. But Sen Nan will peel fruit for him, and even pomegranate will be peeled for him and put in a bowl. If he is playing games, Sen Nan can even feed him into his mouth. Song Wei came to his house and bumped into him once, and he couldn't stand it, saying whether Sen Nan was serving his object or his ancestors. Liang Muqiu remembered this, and subconsciously wanted to laugh, but the corners of her mouth twitched a little and then put it down. Because he quickly remembered that this was not the man who was busy in the kitchen 7 years ago, nor the Sen Nan who loved him. His mood became a little worse again, with one hand on the back of the chair, his face resting on his arm, like a sullen child who was not picked up after school. When Sen Nan brought the prepared dishes to the table, Liang Muqiu returned to his indifferent look, drinking juice with a straw. He originally thought that Sen Nan would only cook a few simple fast-hand dishes, but he didn't expect to see it on the table, and he thought it was full of flavors and flavors. He looked up at Sen Nan and asked, "Did you go to a cooking school abroad? How did you improve so much?" Sen Nan was serving him a meal, and said casually, "You need to know a little bit of these skills outside. I can even repair cars now. You can find me if you need it." Liang Muqiu bit her chopsticks and didn't answer. He thinks the forest store is very good, and there is no need for the big Buddha in front of him. During the meal, Liang Muqiu thought it would be embarrassing, but the truth was just the opposite of what he thought. Sen Nan's attitude was too calm, as if he had completely forgotten their past grievances and hatreds, making him feel that if he didn't behave a little more generously, he would be at a disadvantage. He heard Sen Nan ask him, "Are you still working in your teacher's studio?" "It's gone." Liang Muqiu shook his head and swallowed a mouthful of boiled meat. "Teacher is semi-retired in 2 years, so I'll go out and do it alone." "That's good," Sen Nan said. "You have the ability to be independent. I have a friend at Xinjia Film and Television. I will introduce you to me later." Liang Muqiu originally wanted to refuse, but after thinking about it, it's nothing more than an adult's courtesy, and Sen Nan probably just said it casually. He swallowed the words in his mouth again, nodded perfunctorily, "Okay. Don't just talk about me, how about you, where are you now?" "I went to my brother's law firm, Dushan Law Firm." "You know my brother, Ren Qian?" Ren Qian, Liang Muqiu really remembers, is Sen Nan's close senior brother in college. He has met Liang Muqiu many times. At that time, he was a good boy. Sen Nan called him by his name, but he called him brother. Ren Qian smiled every time and had a good temper. But he was still a little strange and asked, "Shouldn't you go back to inherit the family business? How did you get to him?" Sen Nan's parents have a well-known law firm, and Sen Nan has been outstanding since childhood, and has been trained by his parents as successors. Now that Sen Nan has returned to China, there is no reason to go there. Sen Nan's expression did not change. I won't go back first, I will be more at ease outside. Liang Muqiu said oh, didn't ask any more, and continued to eat. He really hadn't eaten such a home-cooked dish for a long time, and everything was very appetizing to him, he couldn't help it just eat more. Sen Nan didn't move his chopsticks anymore and looked at him calmly from the opposite side. Liang Muqiu has always been very cute when she eats, like a little chipmunk, her cheeks are slightly bulging, but she eats very gently. In the past 7 or 8 years, he has faded away from the innocence of the past, and he will always casually exude charm in his gestures. But Sen Nan sat across from him and looked at him, but felt that he was still the same as when he was 20. It seems that Liang Muqiu is still the young man who would play games in his arms and open his mouth to bite the chocolate in his hand. This gave him an illusion, as if they never separated, it was just an ordinary day in their lives. He came home from work to cook for Liang Muqiu, and Liang Muqiu would chat with him, complain about how hairy customers are. Unfortunately, this is just an illusion, Liang Muqiu probably hates him now. Sen Nan laughed lightly at himself. But he stretched out his hand uncontrollably and touched Liang Muqiu's face without permission. It is soft. Liang Muqiu suddenly stopped, looked up at him, and ducked back like a vigilant cat. What are you doing? Liang Muqiu looked bad. His resistance made Sen Nan's head pierced with a needle, but he didn't reveal the slightest, and spread his fingertips to Liang Muqiu to see. You have a chili seed on your cheek. There is indeed a chili crumb in Sen Nan's hand. Liang Muqiu frowned, feeling like she was being taken advantage of by this bastard. But he is not a cute girl of 17 or 18 years old, and he has nothing to gain, so he has no face to call indecent. He could only take out a tissue and wipe his face depressedly, announcing, I'm done, thank you for your hospitality. He really had a good meal. At least 2/3 of the dishes on the table went into his stomach. Liang Muqiu touched her bulging belly and felt that she was not a loss. The author has something to say, edamame, Wang Wu. After dinner, Liang Muqiu said goodbye to Sen Nan. After all, it's a cannibal, he was a little embarrassed, and said vaguely, thank you for today, I have the opportunity to invite you to dinner. He thought about giving Sen Nan a snack or something in the future, so he thought it was a favor. Sen Nan seemed to remember, looked at him, and said seriously, okay. He sent Liang Muqiu to the entrance. The porch light outside the door was not turned on today, only the light coming from the door illuminated the corridor, and in the night, it seemed like a small piece of golden fog was sprinkled. Liang Muqiu stepped into this bright fog, blue home clothes, and grey slippers, revealing 2 lonely ankles. The skin is very white, like it will stay when you pinch it imprint. Sen Nan stared at him, a bunch of pictures flashed in his mind out of time. He sighed, feeling that he hadn't touched Liang Muqiu for too many years, and he was about a pervert. If it wasn't for fear of scaring Liang Muqiu, he wouldn't want anyone to walk out of this door tonight. Seeing that Liang Muqiu was about to disappear into the shadow of the corridor, he suddenly stopped Liang Muqiu. He called softly, only 2 words, floating in the quiet corridor. Autumn. Liang Muqiu froze. For many years, he had never heard Sen Nan call him that. But many years ago, when the two lived together, Sen Nan often hugged him and called him by his nickname. He couldn't hold back, turned his head and glanced at Sen Nan. In the haze, only the lights behind Sen Nan were bright, like a lighthouse on the sea. He saw that Sen Nan smiled at him, not clear, but an indescribable sadness. Go to bed early. Sen Nan said to him. Liang Muqiu didn't answer, and went straight back to her house, slamming the door open, as if she wanted to slap the door panel on Sen Nan's face. But in fact, just because of this Kaiokyu, he felt in a mess all night. Even lying on the bed after taking a shower, she folded her arms and frowned, not knowing what Sen Nan wanted to do. On the surface, since the encounter in the bar a few days ago, Sen Nan seems to be quite reserved and has not done anything excessive to him. It is better to say that she is like an old classmate who has been reunited for a long time, warm, appropriate and thoughtful. But he still felt that there was something wrong with Sen Nan. Liang Muqiu thought deeply. He felt that Sen Nan was seducing him. He had no evidence, but he had intuition. This always did this when he was chasing him 10 years ago. He also took the initiative to send a confession. Liang Muqiu was angry when she thought of this. But he couldn't find a real hammer, so he could only brush his phone depressed. It's good that he didn't swipe. As soon as he swiped, he saw Sen Nan's circle of friends, which was just sent half an hour ago. The two of them added their WeChat just when they were eating. Sen Nan took out his mobile phone with a natural face, saying that he has become a neighbor, and he wants to introduce friends from the film and television industry to him, so it is better to add a WeChat. He had the fried shrimp made by Sen Nan himself in his mouth, and he was embarrassed to refuse. Now he is staring at this circle of friends that Sen Nan just posted, and he feels like he has fallen into a pit again. Sen Nan posted today's dinner. The lighting was soft, the dishes were delicately arranged, and two blue and white bowls were placed facing each other, which was very warm. The text of this circle of friends is, "I'm very happy tonight." Liang Muqiu stared at this circle of friends for 10 minutes. He thought, what are you happy about? We have a meal, what is there to be happy about? He couldn't guess what Sen Nan meant, either in the past or now. But when he thought that Sen Nan was calm and restless, he was worried here, and he panicked. 2 minutes later, he also posted a circle of friends, which only Sen Nan could see. The content is clean and neat, just 3 words. Bastard. After posting, he was refreshed and fell asleep under the covers. Sen Nan saw this moments after processing the file. He didn't know it was only visible to him, but inexplicably, he immediately felt that Liang Muqiu was scolding him. He couldn't help laughing. After so many years, Liang Muqiu seems to have grown up, except for her temper, she still looks like a child. He thought, Liang Muqiu was not wrong, he is indeed an asshole. But Liang Muqiu still cares. Liang Muqiu will never learn, the best way to hurt people is obviously indifference. He silently liked this circle of friends, and then returned to his brother and boss's WeChat. Ren Qian urged him to come to the law firm quickly and receive clients tomorrow. Do you still want to earn a wife's book? Ren Qian threatened him. Sen Nan raised his eyebrows and replied, I see, I will come. Because work came to an end, Liang Muqiu slept at home until noon. When he got up, he tidied up the house briefly. It was not until the evening that he drove out. He went to the supermarket to buy a wave of daily necessities, and then drove to the pet hospital. He has a small corgi with a round butt, called Edamame. He is not too young, he is 8 years old, he is middle-aged and old, but in his eyes, he is still the same as cute as home. His precious son had a bad stomach a few days ago and was sent to the veterinary hospital for recuperation. Came to pick up my son. When he arrived at the hospital, the little girl at the front desk was very impressed with him and said with a smile, Are you coming to pick up the dog? Yes. He gave the little girl a box of chocolates he just bought, and went in with snacks to find the doctor and nurse who took care of his Edamame. Edamame was lying on the table and playing ball, but when she saw him, she became energetic and threw herself on him. Liang Muqiu smiled and touched Corgi's round buttocks and kissed Edamame on the forehead one bite. The doctor looked at them both with a smile. He is also familiar with Liang Muqiu. He has treated Madhu for the past few years. Liang Muqiu is wearing a thin sweater of burnt color today, which makes the skin even more even, and the hair has just been washed, with a very light fruity aroma. He couldn't help but look at Liang Muqiu a few more times, and saw that Liang Muqiu was wearing a one-sided earring today, a very simple style, but it swayed around his ear, shaking his heart. Liang Muqiu and the dog-son were tired enough, so they distributed snacks to the little nurses who took care of his Edamame, took the note of precautions given by the doctor, and picked up his Edamame to leave. Dr. Xiao, then I'll go first. He waved at the doctor with the small paw of edamame. Edamame, say goodbye to the doctor. The doctor was amused. He looked at Liang Muqiu, and wanted to invite Liang Muqiu to have a meal together. But before he could say anything, Liang Muqiu had already run away with edamame. Halfway through, she lifted the edamame a little higher. The back of her jumping could not be seen at all. She looked like a college student. The little nurse next to him glanced at the doctor sympathetically. It has been said that there must be a lot of people chasing Mr. Liang. You don't dare to come here clearly, how would Mr. Liang know? The doctor was a little dissatisfied. But in the end, she sighed in frustration. He shrugged, he must have a high vision after being single for so many years. Even if I chase him, he will be cannon fodder. The little nurses laughed. You have self-knowledge. The doctor looked out the window dejectedly. What he didn't say was that, in fact, he always felt that Mr. Liang, who was good-natured and beautiful, seemed to have someone in his heart. Liang Muqiu didn't know that he had harmed a good young man with a red roots, and hummed the song all the way to bring the edamame back home. Edamame is absent these days, and he feels that the house is a lot deserted. Edamame, Daddy bought you a new nest. He rubbed the dog's head of edamame, and dog toys. Our edamame suffered in the hospital, I'll make it up to you. Edamame snorted in coordination. The elevator quickly reached the 11th floor. When exiting the elevator door, Liang Muqiu deliberately looked around cautiously. After making sure there was no one in the corridor, he came out. He was going to go directly back to the house with the edamame, but he stood in the corridor for a few seconds and looked up at Sen Nan's closed door. The sky will be late and the twilight will close. He knows that Sen Nan should not come back. He suddenly smiled a little disappointedly, picked up a small paw of edamame, hugged him and turned to Sen Nan's house. Edamame, see it, that's your other father's house. He didn't know why, and there was an inexplicable grief in his heart, more than the moment he reunited with Sen Nan in the bar still sour. Do you remember him? He brought you back and gave it to me. This little corgi has been raised by his side for 7 or 8 years. Sen Nan gave it to him. When the edamame was brought back, there was only a small fluffy ball, wrapped in a small blanket and held by Sen Nan like a toy. He didn't see that it was a puppy, so he leaned over curiously and asked Sen Nan what it was. Sen Nan took off the blanket, and a fluffy puppy came out, licking his face wildly. Liang Muqiu still remembers this scene. Sen Nan smiled and looked at him with a smug tone. It's our son. Nowadays, the palm-sized edamame has grown into an elderly dog. Although it is still chubby and cute, it has become slow and always dozed off. And Sen Nan, I don't know if he remembers, he had this son. Liang Muqiu didn't stay in the corridor for much longer, and went into the house with the edamame. He put the edamame next to the new nest, and stuffed the small towel that the edamame used to bite, so the edamame was not used to it. He went into the kennel at once, but he quickly stuck his head out of the kennel again, put his head on the floor, and whimpered at Liang Muqiu. Liang Muqiu was amused by it. He reached out and touched edamame's head. What Sen Nan left him in the past would probably be edamame. It's a bit like a divorce between husband and wife, and the custody of the child belongs to him. Now that the child's father lives in the opposite door, it is possible to bump into each other. Liang Muqiu couldn't say either. He really didn't want Sen Nan to recognize edamame. He could only encourage edamame, if you see your irresponsible father, remember to bite him twice. But he thought about it and felt that it was not good, and added, don't bite the meat, bite the clothes. Edamame lay on the ground, with innocent eyes open. She couldn't understand what Liang Muqiu was saying, she could only wag her short tail perfunctorily. Liang Muqiu played dog toys with edamame for a while, then went to cook for edamame. Edamame is delicious, and he has a sense of accomplishment. Anyway, there are still creatures who can appreciate his cooking skills. He was relieved to see it, took a video of edamame, and uploaded it to his account at Station D. A few years ago, he opened an account on the video website D Station, and he would upload some vlogs to it every once in a while. What? Sometimes he would say a few words in the video, and sometimes he didn't even have a narration at all. There was only a continuous scenery and BGM in the video. However, after a few years, because many landscape videos were well shot, his account actually accumulated 10,000 fans. The advantage of having fewer people is that it is easy to get familiar. His comment area is like a naturally formed community, and everyone usually chats under his video like a small talk. Liang Muqiu even saw someone dating in the comments. He uploaded this video of edamame, and after 10 minutes, there were a few scattered comments below. He glanced at the comment area, and sure enough, the familiar ID Nandu was in the front row. Nandu is also his loyal fan. Since he only posted a few videos at Station D, he has become his fan. He doesn't talk much, but he comments every time. After all these years, two people can be regarded as friends who have never met. Liang Muqiu opened the backstage and saw Nandu sent him a private message, asking if edamame was feeling well. Liang Muqiu, okay, I was still chewing on the dog bone toy just now. I will take it out for a walk tomorrow. Nandu, that's good. The topic has reached the point, and Nandu has not sent any more messages. Liang Muqiu stared at the head in a daze. Nandu's head is an oak tree, with no features, silent and low-key, just like him. The two have been in touch since 2 years ago. Because Liang Muqiu was drunk, it was rare to have a live broadcast. At that time, there were only a few people in the live broadcast room. He went back to the university a while ago, the library was renovated, but the cherry blossom tree outside the door remained the same, it was really beautiful. Other people in the live broadcast room are watching the fun, ready to wait for him to wake up the next day and laugh at him. Only Nandu sent him a private message overnight. Ask him where he is, if his stomach hurts, if anyone takes care of him. When he saw it, he was stunned, and even sobered up a bit. Because even across the screen, the anxiety and impatience that rushed to my face seemed to overflow. Nandu Liu's last sentence, please come back to me, please. Liang Muqiu stared at the screen for a while before replying, I'm fine. My stomach doesn't hurt much, I just didn't wake up. The other side responded quickly, don't take it seriously, if you have a stomach upset, go to the hospital. Do you have any friends? Do you need me to call a personal doctor for you? He looked at the short 2 lines. There was only a pure white background on the screen, but he seemed to see Sen Nan's anxious face. In the end, he didn't say anything he shouldn't say, and replied, I'm really fine, it doesn't hurt anymore. After this time, he would occasionally chat privately with this stranger named Nandu, chatting like a friend. During the chat, he roughly knew the information about Nandu. He was 1 year younger than him, and he was a Chinese PhD student from Pingxi. He even rashly asked Nandu for a photo once. He felt like a pervert who harassed his fans, and stubbornly wanted to take a look at what the person who was chatting with him looked like. Fortunately, Nandu did not reject him. Photos arrived quickly. The man above did not have a striking face, but he was handsome and gentle, wearing black rimmed glasses and a grey fine-grained shirt, sitting properly on the school bench. Far from Sen Nan as handsome, nor as sharp-edged under Sen Nan's cold exterior. It's a completely unfamiliar face. Liang Muqiu even searched the internet with this photo, and determined that it was not an online picture that could be found casually. He couldn't tell what he felt, it seemed like a blessing, but it was mixed with a trace of loss. He first noticed Nandu because of the word Nan in this ID. How many times, when he was chatting in Nandu, he couldn't help guessing that the opposite would be Sen Nan. Now he knows the answer, it's just a caring stranger. But after this time, he let his guard down and talked to Nandu. At first, he was self-motivated, afraid that Nandu liked him, but later he found out that he thought too much. Liang Muqiu lay on the plush carpet and stared at the screen for a while. Obviously Nandu had verified his identity, but when he thought of Sen Nan who happened to be his neighbor, he suddenly felt a cryptic suspicion arose. He asked Nandu, "What are you doing now?" Nandu came back quickly, "I'm writing my thesis at home." Liang Mukiu hesitated for a moment, then asked, "Really? I always think you lied to me." It's a bit of a shame that he typed this sentence because it was really offensive. If it wasn't for him, he had to confirm that Nandu was not Sen Nan. He would not say this to a person on the opposite side of the network if he was beaten to death. Fortunately, Nandu was not angry, but sent him another photo. The photo is of a computer with a half-written ancient paper on it, with a thin and fair hand next to it, wearing a black watch. It was not Sen Nan's hand. Liang Mukiu breathed a sigh of relief. "Sorry, I shouldn't have been so rude." He sincerely apologized. "It's all right, I don't feel angry." Nandu was as simple as before, "Did something happen to you? I feel a little troubled." Liang Mukiu thought, there are too many troubles, such as whether he should beat Sen Nan. But he doesn't want to tell anyone this for now. "There is something, but I don't know how to say it yet." "Then don't say it, I'll listen when you want to say it." Liang Mukiu couldn't help but smile. As long as the opposite is not Sen Nan, then Nandu is really a rare friend. Intimate, gentle, yet moderate, never uncomfortable. He suddenly got a little whimsical and asked Nandu, "We have known each other for 2 years, and we have never met, why don't we make an appointment? Pingxi is just over 2 years away from me." Nandu seems to be stuck this time. After a while, she replied, "Sorry, I'm on a business trip recently and can't meet." Liang Mukiu was a little disappointed, but didn't ask. "All right then, I'll make an appointment later when I'm free." He had a chat with Nandu, and he felt better. Because he went out for a walk today, he was also a little tired and fell asleep a little earlier than usual. Before going to bed, he opened his moments and took a look. Sen Nan didn't post anything today. He didn't know why, and was a little upset. Because Edamame came back, Liang Mukiu took Edamame for a walk in the community garden for several days. His Edamame is a courtesan. Although she has short legs, she is unexpectedly very popular in the dog kennel. Everywhere there are dog hooks lovingly rubbing over and playing with Edamame. Play for a while. Liang Mukiu was chatting with other owners next to him, and felt that his son was a scumbag, which made him very embarrassed. He thought to himself, Edamame is definitely following Senan. He is so dedicated and affectionate, but he can't raise such a scumbag. In high school, those gentle and lovely girls liked Sen Nan as if they were blind, but Sen Nan has always been cold and unwilling to say a single extra sentence. Seeing that it was getting late and it was time to go home, Liang Mukiu shouted at Edamame, "Edamame, come back, we have to go." Edamame immediately abandoned his friend and ran over. Liang Mukiu took the rope, 1 person and 1 dog, and went home slowly. Before entering the apartment building, Liang Mukiu gently asked his son what he wanted to eat tonight. "Edamame, shall we eat fish and chicken at night?" But as soon as he looked up, he found that in front of the elevator, his unwelcoming neighbor, Mr. Sen, was staring at him blankly. And the edamame he was holding in his hand. Sen Nan probably just got off work, his suit is leather shoes, the black suit suits him very well, his hair is meticulously combed, and he smells like an elite scum. Liang Mukiu didn't expect to meet here, so she didn't know whether to say hello or not. But before he could open his mouth, the edamame he was holding in his hand became excited first, changed his noble indifference, and rushed up with his little twisted. Liang Mukiu couldn't even catch the leash. He watched his edamame, dragging a red rope, ran to sa Huaner next to Sen Nan, and slammed it on Sen Nan's trousers with enthusiasm. Sen Nan also squatted down and called out in disbelief, "Edamame!" Edamame gave a loud ouch and got into Sen Nan's arms at once, putting all the dog hair on Sen Nan's high-end suit. It licked Sen Nan's face, black eyes, and was full of attachment like a puppy. "I haven't seen him for 7 years, and he still remembers his other dad. The puppy doesn't understand what abandonment is, nor why Sen Nan disappeared. It only knows that after a long time apart, its other daddy reappeared and hugged it like a child. It even looked back at Liang Muqiu, as if asking Liang Muqiu to come too. Liang Muqiu's face was not good looking, so she walked over slowly. He also counted on Edamame to bite Sen Nan twice, but this guy turned out to be a collaborator and traitor. Sen Nan picked up the edamame. He said to Liang Muqiu with a complicated expression, "I didn't expect that edamame still remembers me." Liang Muqiu suddenly became angry. He said to Sen Nan rudely, "Don't dream less, Madil was only 1 year old when you went abroad, and it's been 7 years now, and you still expect your son to remember you. It's just warm to everyone." As soon as he finished speaking, he was stunned. When he and Sen Nan raised the dog, he often called Corgi his son. After Sen Nan left, he didn't change it. But now it's like a divorced couple discussing child custody. Liang Muqiu silently shut up. The air was silent for a few seconds. Sen Nan didn't know whether to be happy or not. At least Liang Muqiu subconsciously admitted that he was also the father of edamame. He looked down at Liang Muqiu. "You're right, it's my fault that I didn't participate in our son's growth, and I will make up for it in the future." Liang Muqiu's mouth twitched. He knows what shameless is. He said speechlessly, "Sen Nan, you need to face. This is my dog, my son, what does it have to do with you? Already?" Sen Nan looked stiff. He looked at Liang Muqiu. Liang Muqiu looked at the ground, not at him. Liang Muqiu wore a sapphire blue embroidered coat today. Her fair profile was bright and fair, with a youthful air, as if she was still in college. He lowered his eyes and whispered, "I didn't want it." Liang Muqiu snorted, did not answer, stepped forward and pressed the elevator button. Up to the 11th floor of the elevator, Sen Nan was holding the edamame. Seeing that he was about to enter the door, Liang Muqiu turned around and stretched out his hand to Sen Nan, "Enough is enough, give me the edamame." Sen Nan was startled, looked at Liang Muqiu with complicated eyes for a while, and put the edamame in his hand. But he couldn't help but ask, "Can I see edamame in the future?" Liang Muqiu subconsciously wanted to say no. But he looked up at Sen Nan. Under the dim corridor lights, Sen Nan's face was like a thick and colorful oil painting. The eyelashes fluttered gently, as if hiding 1,000 words. Edamame is also moving restlessly in his arms, always wanting to grab Sen Nan's sleeve. For a moment, Liang Muqiu felt like breaking up Cinderella and her father's stepmother. He sighed. "Come if you want, don't make me look like a stepfather." After he finished speaking, he deliberately did not look at Sen Nan's bright eyes, pushed the door, closed it, and shut Sen Nan out of the door in one go. Edamame didn't understand why Sen Nan had closed the door, and was still digging the door anxiously, looking up at Liang Muqiu from time to time, whimpering. Liang Muqiu squatted down, patted Edamame's round butt, and scolded, eating inside and out. But he didn't feel itchy or painful, and Edamame thought he was playing with herself. Liang Muqiu is gone. He nodded his Edamame's nose and said, "It's fine if I can't forget him, why didn't I forget you? How old were you back then?" He scolded Edamame and himself. Because he knows why. It was Sen Nan who brought the edamame back at the beginning. It was Sen Nan who cooked the edamame, shoveled feces and escorted the edamame when she was sick. He was like a spoiled child by Sen Nan at that time. How could he take care of a puppy with milky milk? The first time edamame went to the hospital when he was sick, he was at a loss. He pulled on the corner of Sen Nan's clothes and asked Sen Nan with red eyes if edamame would be okay. Sen Nan wrapped him in a down jacket, as reliable as a tree. "No, I'm here." He will always remember the woody fragrance on Sen Nan's body. He buried his head on Sen Nan's shoulder and indulged in it like a poison. He knew from a long time ago that he was too dependent on Sen Nan, but who can say that this is not the result of Sen Nan's deliberate indulgence? After not seeing him for many years, he still made no progress and was in chaos. Liang Muqiu asked Sen Nan to look at the edamame, that is to say, she was polite but not sincere. But he forgot that the man on the opposite door was on a stick. He soon paid the price for his soft heart. Since he allowed Sen Nan to see edamame, this person has been reporting to the door for 5 consecutive days. Sen Nan will not come empty-handed. Every time he carries new cakes and ingredients, he is sincere in his words, saying that it is also to cook dinner for 1 person, and also for 2 people. Come here, it is better to contract Liang Muqiu's dinner together. Liang Muqiu sat on the sofa nibbling apples, looking at the back of his busy kitchen. His face was not ugly, but it was not good looking. Since he moved into this apartment, the kitchen has not been used a few times. The new pot is bright and orange, almost unused, and a pile of seasonings are piled on the shelf. Good risk expired. And Sen Nan had only been here for 3 days, his deserted kitchen seemed to welcome a master and suddenly came to life. Sen Nan stayed in it calmly, cutting vegetables with his head down, and holding a plate at hand. It was not at all cramped to be a guest in someone else's house, but it was like taking this place as his own. He got up from the sofa, leaned against the kitchen door and looked at Sen Nan. Sen Nan was cutting potatoes, noticed him coming, thought he was tired of waiting, and said warmly, "I'll be right now, if you're hungry, there's a cheesecake I bought in the refrigerator, you can eat it first a little." Liang Muqiu glanced at the refrigerator. Don't look at it, he also knew that his refrigerator was full by Sen Nan, as if he was afraid that he would starve himself. But in the past few years before Sen Nan appeared, he was used to living alone and lived well. "I'm not hungry," he said lightly. "I'm just wondering, is your law firm going to close down? Why are you so idle, running to my house every day?" Sen Nan smiled helplessly. This means that he comes too often. Can be extracted. Liang Muqiu slammed the cotton with a punch, feeling boring. He was with Sen Nan in the past, both of them were only in their early 20s, they were young and vigorous, and no matter how much they were in love, no matter how much Sen Nan protected him, they would inevitably quarrel a few words, because the support was different. Every football team could form a ball on the sofa, and in the end, he was often pressed by Sen Nan to beg for mercy. However, after many years, Sen Nan has now restrained all his sharp edges in front of him, like that cold and arrogant young man who learned to be gentle and restrained overnight. But he heard Sen Nan talking on the phone with the assistant, and he was the same as before. His style was cold and unfriendly, he was obviously not loud, and his words were not hurried or slow, and he also called the little assistant on the other end. Terrified of submissiveness. Only in front of him, Sen Nan seemed to have lost his temper. Liang Muqiu is not a fool either. In recent years, he has also rejected many men and women who adore him. Those people are also very conceited in front of him, even when he tells a bad joke. He lowered his eyes, he finished eating the apple, and threw it out like a hooligan, drawing an arc in the air, and it happened to land in the trash can beside Sen Nan's feet. Then he stopped staring at Sen Nan to cook, and ran back to the sofa to play games, very much like a landowner who cheated long-term workers. But his eyes were fixed on the screen of the mobile phone, but his soul was not on it. He looked at Sen Nan's back in the kitchen just now, and for a moment, he thought it would be great if Sen Nan had been here all the time. The thought made his heart skip a beat. He knew that he had never let go of Sen Nan. I didn't expect him to be unable to stop these short days. Sen Nan seems to be the poison specially prepared for him, once it gets on it, there is no escape. After dinner, Sen Nan was still conscious. After playing a ball game with edamame at his house for a while, he took the initiative to leave. But before he left, he handed Liang Muqiu a well-packaged box and said, "I saw it by chance on the road, and I thought it was suitable for you, so I bought it." Liang Muqiu looked at Sen Nan, looked at the box again, and opened it. Inside is a ferret of RAZ pen, made of mother of pearl, shining under the light, lying in a box, like an elegant princess. This is not something you can buy by chance. He likes to collect all kinds of pens from the past, of course, he is familiar with all kinds of brands, and he also knows the value of this money. He looked up at Sen Nan and put the box back into Sen Nan's hand. No merit, no reward, he leaned against the door lazily. I haven't given you any favors, and you can't bribe me. Sen Nan actually expected this result, but he couldn't help but feel lost. He whispered, just a small gift. Liang Muqiu had only 3 words more simply and neatly, I don't want it. Sen Nan has no choice. He smiled lightly at Liang Muqiu, well, wait until you want it before accepting it. Liang Muqiu didn't answer. He rarely sent Sen Nan to the door. He stayed still the other day, letting Sen Nan get out. Seeing that Sen Nan was about to go out, he stood on the steps, raised his voice slightly, and said, I won't be at home tomorrow, you won't come. Sen Nan looked up at him, okay, then I. Liang Muqiu interrupted him. Not only tomorrow, the day after tomorrow, the day after tomorrow, but also the day after tomorrow. If you want edamame, you can send it to you for a few days. But the 2 of us, although we are old classmates, also divide it up. Being distant, it's not enough to live together. Thank you for your dinner these days. Sen Nan could naturally understand the meaning of these words, and his eyes sank for a moment. He looked at Liang Muqiu, who was 2 steps higher than him. Liang Muqiu was wearing a thin azure sweater today, revealing a beautiful collarbone, short black hair, and a plain white face. She stepped on the floor with her bare feet, as if she was still a 20-year-old young man. However, upon closer inspection, he is clearly much more mature than before. At least the previous Liang Muqiu would not have refused so calmly and without leakage. Liang Muqiu even smiled at Sen Nan, I know you would say that we can still be friends and neighbors and take care of each other. But I'm sorry, I'm too small-minded and can't make peace with my ex coexist. Since Sen Nan came back, because of his too gentle and natural attitude, the 2 even deliberately avoided the word ex when they got along. It's as if they never had a relationship, they didn't kiss and hug in the middle of the night, just 2 old friends who reunited after a long absence. But now Liang Muqiu has made it clear. Until now, when he looks into Sen Nan's eyes, he still feels pain. He heard Sen Nan say, do you think I disturb you, then I can come less. He shook his head, no, I just don't want to see you. Because when he saw Sen Nan, his heart would be shaken, and the calmness and restraint of these years were all in vain. He was a little helpless, and said again, you shouldn't want me to move, to be honest, I quite like this house. He seemed to see pain on Sen Nan's face, a look so gloomy that he was about to collapse. But soon, Sen Nan turned his head, his face was hidden in the shadows, and he couldn't see it clearly. The hallway was quiet. Liang Muqiu did not urge Sen Nan to answer, and stood quietly. After a long time, he saw that Sen Nan put the gift box on the shoe cabinet. I see. Sen Nan turned his back, if you don't want to see me, at least keep this gift, it's useless for me to keep it. You don't have to move, and you don't have to hide from me, I should go. Sen Nan went out and closed the door gently. His back is still straight. Click. The door is divided into 2 worlds. When Sen Nan left, Liang Muqiu's shoulders collapsed instantly. He sat on the floor slowly, staring at the closed door in a daze. He thought about it, he has been experienced in these years, and he can be alone at work, but emotionally it makes no sense. He should get along with Sen Nan in a moderate manner. This is nothing more than an old lover and not a beast. If he acts in a panic, it will reveal that he has not let go. But now he found out. He can't. In the past 7 years, he hasn't forgotten Sen Nan for a minute or a second, he was just scared of the pain, so he locked up the memories of Sen Nan, buried it in his heart, and didn't touch it. After a long time, even he believed it, he didn't care about Sen Nan anymore. But this lie can only be sustained until Chen Nan appears. From the moment the flames of the lighter illuminated Sen Nan's face in the bar, his lies were shattered like foam. He didn't forget. Liang Muqiu blushed, raised the back of her hand and wiped it on her eyelids. He admitted that he was just useless. As long as Sen Nan appeared around him, he would be affected. He is not a mature and graceful adult, he has always been clumsy and reckless emotionally. At first, he met Sen Nan only occasionally, and he could barely hold on, but these days, Sen Nan went straight into his house, laughing at his house and looking at him. He looked too much like him. Every time he looked at a scene that he would dream of countless times over the years, the line of defense in his heart would collapse. Maybe in the next second, Sen Nan beckons, he will run over like a puppy and throw himself into Sen Nan's arms. That would be embarrassing. So he could only refuse to meet Sen Nan. Liang Muqiu sucked her nose, blinked, and forced her tears back. What a shame! He said to himself, why am I crying, who hasn't been blind when they were young? That's it, he thought. He and Sen Nan had opened up their conversation. Sen Nan was so arrogant, and he knew the elegance by listening to the songs, and he would not harass him again after thinking about it. They go their separate ways. But what he didn't know was that Sen Nan didn't leave just outside his house. Sen Nan has been standing motionless outside the door for half an hour. He leaned against the door like this, lit a cigarette, smoking, and seeing the dark night outside. The night wind was like fog, and the laughter of children could be heard far downstairs. Their floors are too high to see the lush trees downstairs. But the small villa he lives abroad has a private garden. There is an oak tree in the garden. And NBSP, and NBSP, and NBSP, and NBSP, neighbor's German lady told him that oak trees were regarded as sacred trees in Europe. When they got married, the newcomers could be blessed if they tied the red rope on the oak tree. The white-haired old lady looked at him gently. Young man, you must have a lover hidden in your heart. You always look at the oak tree, as if you are missing someone. He smiled without denying. Because the old lady was right. There is a rocking chair under the oak tree in his yard. He looked at the rocking chair from the window countless times, thinking that if only Liang Muqiu were here, he would kiss him like every new husband, carry him to pick fruit from the oak tree. Or, he might just be ruthless. Don't worry about the things that bind him, he can buy a plane ticket back to China now and stay by the side of the one he loves. Now he is finally back. The one he loves, the only person he wants to marry, is in this door behind him. But they seem to be separated by the Pacific Ocean. He came too late. His lover no longer wants him. The author has something to say. There will be another chapter today. Since she told Sen Nan what she said, Liang Muqiu has also spent a few days of pure life. Sen Nan probably finished working from home, and went to the law firm to report early and returned late. He also staggered the time when he took Madhu to go out, and the two never bumped into each other once. The corridor in front of the door was quiet again, only the dim wall lamp illuminated the faint corridor. Only once, Liang Muqiu came back from the convenience store and found a bag of toys for small dogs with a sticky note on the door. It was in Sen Nan's handwriting, saying that these toys were bought before. Forgot to give the edamame. He stared at the note for a while, then took down the bag, picked up a few toys after entering the door, and threw them to edamame to play with. Edamame is still stupid, doesn't understand anything, only knows silly music. Liang Muqiu couldn't help laughing when she saw that it ran too fast and fell on the buttocks. When he walked into the kitchen, he didn't know how to cook, so he just bought a bento box and put it on the plate, and it looked like a decent one. He finished dinner with edamame in the restaurant. Edamame went back to the kennel to continue playing yarn balls, and he sat on the sofa and wrote the script. Just writing and writing, he will look up and take a look. However, the table was cold and empty, only the calla lilies bloomed silently in the green vase. Being bored at home for 4 or 5 days, Liang Muqiu received a call from Song Wei. Song Wei asked him to go to their company's party. He could bring his relatives and friends. Liang Muqiu subconsciously refused. Forget it, I don't like to participate in these, let alone your company. Liang Muqiu just woke up, drinking milk with a pillow on the sofa, yawning, go play by yourself. Well, have fun. Song Wei had already guessed it. Don't you know the people in our group very well? How long have you been staying at home? Anyway, come out to bask in the sun, Song Wei said bitterly, I'm not letting you pick people back at the party. When I sleep at home, I just come here to get together and get to know more people. Liang Muqiu was delighted, your party was at night, not noon, what kind of sun did you see? Besides, I walked edamame every day, and I went out a lot. Yesterday, I talked to the aunt downstairs about the discount in the supermarket. Song Yk does not play these word games with him. Don't interrupt me, the clothes will be delivered to your door soon, remember to wear them, and drive to the Ranji Hotel tomorrow night. After finishing speaking, Song Wei hung up the phone. Liang Muqiu has nothing to do, although Song Wei is kind and soft-hearted, but no one can be stubborn. Song Wei was determined to let him get out of the house, but it was better for him to be respectful than to obey. The clothes Song Wei prepared for him were delivered the next day. Song Wei is a fashion designer. She has a natural eye for picking clothes, and even accessories are attached, so Liang Muqiu doesn't need to worry about it. Liang Muqiu went to the cocktail party these years, and did not miss Song Wei for personal styling. Song Wei knew his size well. At 6:30 in the evening, Liang Muqiu packed up and went out with the car keys. At this time, Sen Nan was returning from get off work. As soon as the door opened, there was a long and narrow corridor, and the two met each other. Since leaving Liang Muqiu's house that day, it was the first time that Sen Nan saw Liang Muqiu. His eyes swept Liang Muqiu from top to bottom uncontrollably. Liang Muqiu was obviously dressed up, with a regular white shirt inside, but a small black embroidered leather jacket on the outside, revealing a narrow waist. Black trousers stretched a pair of slender legs, with stroppy leather boots. The whole person is sassy and heroic. But his face is too beautiful, it dilutes the edge of the body, the skin is fair and delicate, the lips are probably smeared with lip balm, which is softer than usual, and the left ear is wearing a unilateral earring, the simplest style, wobbly, so swaying that people want to reach out and grab it and drop a kiss on it. At least Chen Nan wanted to do this. However, he still maintained his surface calm and asked, "Are you going out?" Liang Muqiu didn't expect to collide with Sen Nan. He was wearing this well-organized dress, facing Sen Nan, he didn't know where to put his hands. Well, hang out with friends, he didn't deliberately show a cold face to Sen Nan, there was no need, I'll go downstairs first, bye. After he finished speaking, he walked over, passed by Sen Nan, and pressed the elevator button. Liang Muqiu went to the basement to get the car. He came out just in time for the commute and drove very slowly, and it took more than 40 minutes to arrive at the Ranji Hotel. Song Wei and the others held the party in the banquet hall on the first floor. Liang Muqiu caught a glimpse of sight as soon as he entered, and the beauties with clever smiles swept his eyes, both men and women. Fortunately, he was already proficient in this kind of situation, and he looked back with a chuckle, but he kept his feet and didn't mean to accept the invitation. Liang Muqiu found Song Wei amid the noise. Song Wei was chatting with his friends in the group. He was dressed quite well today, wearing an ordinary black dress, but with a bandage on his hand. He patted Song Wei on the shoulder. Song Wei turned around and smiled, "You're here." Song Wei's close colleagues also knew Liang Muqiu, and once misunderstood that Liang Muqiu and Song Wei were a couple. Liang Muqiu was too lazy to explain, and half-truths acquiesced, so everyone couldn't tell whether he was single or whether he didn't make it clear to Song Wei. Everyone likes good-looking people, especially those who are lively and friendly. Song Wei's colleagues have a good impression of Liang Muqiu. A girl named Irene handed a glass of wine to Liang Muqiu. "Kaihoqiu, you are late, have a drink first." Liang Muqiu didn't refuse, he drank the wine and winked at people. Irene blushed when she was teased. Looking at Song Wei next to him, she hated how they were gay. Liang Muqiu asked Song Wei, "What excuse are you using to have a party?" Song Wei said with a smile, "Our company, we can find something to make fun of when we have nothing to do, not to mention the recent performance has been good, so we should relax for everyone." He bowed to Liang Muqiu, "I will come today. There are a lot of models, and compared with the receptions in your film and television circle, there are many good-looking ones, right?" Liang Muqiu swept around the room, and it was true that many of the people present had good looks, slender and tall bodies, and all of them looked like fairies in fairy tales. But he was subconsciously picky. These people are beautiful, but they are too light, they don't have a stable background, they should laugh more coldly, and they should be casual when the wind sweeps over them. It is not easy to be happy, and it is not easy to get angry, which makes people wonder what kind of mind is hidden under this skin. It took him a few seconds to realize that he was comparing with Sen Nan, and his face suddenly froze. Song Wei didn't pay attention, and took Liang Muqiu around the venue. In recent years, Liang Muqiu has been regarded as a rookie in the field of screenwriting, and several books written independently are also considered a little splashy, so there are many when people heard his name, their smiles became more sincere. Liang Muqiu exchanged several business cards with others, praising this perfume and that ring, but she was already bored. It didn't take long before he slipped away from Song Wei's hand like a fish. "I'll sit by the side for a while, and I'll come to you later." Song Wei's Hung was talking to people, and could not stop him, so he could only go with him. Liang Muqiu stood on the pillar on the edge, took out her mobile phone and played for a while. He went out anyway, took a photo and posted it in the circle of friends, and then went to get some snacks to eat. "I was picking it up, and a hand stretched out beside it, pointing at a brown pastry. This is delicious." He turned his head and saw a handsome face, with deep eyebrows, but clear eyes, making it impossible to tell his age, and his half-long golden hair hanging on his shoulders, making it more and more ethereal. Even a person like Liang Muqiu, who is used to sensuality, was stunned. The man smiled when he saw him like this. "Sorry, did I scare you?" Liang Muqiu waved his hands again and again. "There is such a commotion here, no one will be scared by a word." He heard the man in front of him ask him, "Are you Liang Muqiu?" Liang Muqiu nodded. "My name is Qin Jia," the man smiled. He looked as elegant as an elf, but his name was ancient. "I have read your book Long Living and Farewelling like very much." "Thank you." Liang Muqiu didn't expect to meet people who knew him here, but he searched frantically in his mind, but he didn't remember who Qin Jia was. He only vaguely felt that he was a model, and there was no topic for greetings. Fortunately, Qin Jia didn't care, but kept looking at him with a smile. "I'm a little embarrassed to say, I've always admired your script, but I didn't find a chance to meet you." Liang Muqiu didn't know if this person was being polite or telling the truth, so she could only nod her head in agreement, hoping to get away quickly. But he did not expect that this beautiful woman named Qin Jia really stood still and chatted with him about movies and scripts. From The First Snow, which he won the Newcomer Award for the first time, to the recent Story of the City that director Zhang is planning to shoot, it can be heard that Qin Jia is not perfunctory, but really loves it. There is a degree of progress and retreat between words, which makes people feel comfortable. Liang Muqiu slowly relaxed. In fact, rather than socializing like flowers and butterflies indoors, he still likes to chat with people like this, talking about things he likes. He drank several glasses of wine unknowingly, until Song Wei found him, and was surprised that he seemed to be drinking too much. Song Wei obviously knew Qin Jia and greeted in surprise, "Mr. Qin." Qin Jia also smiled and touched a glass with him. Liang Muqiu put his hand on Song Wei's hand to stabilize himself. Song Wei asked worriedly, "How much did you drink?" Liang Muqiu felt sober, "Not much." Since Song Wei is here, he is not ready to continue chatting with Qin Jia, after all, he is a stranger, so click on it and stop. Mr. Qin, I'll go to rest for a while with my friends. He smiled at Qin Juya. Qin Juya nodded and said yes, but took out her mobile phone and asked with a smile, "Can I exchange contact information with you?" Liang Muqiu did not refuse. Song Wei was on the side, her eyes were quite subtle. After exchanging calls, Liang Muqiu followed Song Wei away. When he was far away, he asked Song Wei, "Is this Mr. Qin a supermodel?" Song Wei was amused, "You don't know each other, and you have been chatting with people for so long. He used to be a model for a while, but he has long since retired. Now he is the boss of a model company." He glanced at Liang Muqiu's face, "Mr. Qin, he has a good reputation in the circle, he is rich and gentle, and he likes it a lot. He took the initiative to talk to you, he is quite rare." He arched beam Muqiu, with a little teasing. He couldn't get used to Liang Muqiu's being a monk all these years, and he was eager to pack Liang Muqiu and send it out. Liang Muqiu thought of going elsewhere. "Ah, he is so beautiful, he is actually a one. But yes, he is so tall." He didn't have any romantic feelings about him in his mind. Song Wei choked, "I have never seen such a stunned person." Thinking of Sen Nan, he looked sideways at Liang Muqiu and couldn't help asking, "Didn't you say you met Sen Nan last time, and then did he contact you?" Liang Muqiu was startled, not knowing how to answer. Not only did they meet, but he also let people enter the house. He took another sip of wine in disguise, blinked his eyelashes, "Half-truth, I met a few times again, he wants to see edamame." It took Song Wei a while to remember that the edamame was raised by Sen Nan and Liang Muqiu. He accompanied Liang Muqiu for a while, and another acquaintance came to him. He was going to socialize with people. Before leaving, he told Liang Muqiu, "Don't drink too much, your face is red. It's time to leave already." Liang Muqiu agreed well, but he was sitting on the sofa, the scenery and lights in the banquet hall danced in a ball, and the sound of men and women laughing seemed to come from far away. He stared at the phone, unknowingly drank cup after cup. On his mobile phone page is Sen Nan's WeChat page. Just exchanged WeChat with that Mr. Qin, and caught him off guard and saw the dialogue between Sen Nan and him, and stopped at Sen Nan and asked him if he wanted to eat peaches. His finger was on the delete key. Since it has been decided not to have any more intersections, it seems unnecessary to keep the contact information. But he didn't press down. The author has something to say, the estimate is wrong, it seems, it is not sweet. But dear, it is a candy, definitely not. Song Wei couldn't figure out how much he drank, so he got him into the car, and sat in the front row for the driver, but he was still worried and asked, "Can you go back by yourself? Don't want me to take you?" Liang Muqiu was crooked in the back seat, her eyes were even more watery after drinking. But he begged for a beating, "You thin arms and legs, what to give, I'm afraid you will be robbed." Song Wei's teeth tickled. But when he saw Liang Muqiu resting on his chin with one hand, his eyes were slack, but he didn't look like he was going to faint. He closed the car door to Liang Muqiu, "Get out of here and message me when you get home." Liang Muqiu nodded noble and dignified, and waved at Song Wei, meaning to retreat. Song Wei was so happy. It's late now, the road is not busy, and it doesn't take long to arrive at Liang Muqiu's apartment downstairs. He used the remaining sobriety to swipe the money for the master, locked the car, took the car key, and staggered into the elevator. If he enters the password, his chaotic brain can't remember it. Several times, with a long beep, the combination lock of his house was automatically locked. Liang Muqiu was stunned, thinking later that he seemed to be locked at the door of his house. He reluctantly pressed it a few more times, but the combination lock was still unmoved, and the beeping beeped when he was in a hurry. Liang Muqiu has nothing to do. He can't let edamame open the door for him. At this point, edamame, a well-rested old dog, has probably already entered the den to take a nap. He thought, fortunately, he prepared dinner for Edamame, at least not starving his son. He couldn't stand still and just sat on the ground. He didn't know what to do either, and now his mind was chaotic, and he was not even awake when the night wind was blowing. There is no reason to be drunk. He neither thought that he could go to Songwei nor that he could go out to stay in a hotel, but he wondered whether he should just sleep at the door. But he stayed at the door for less than 2 minutes, when the door opposite him suddenly opened. From the inside came a tall, indifferent handsome guy, dressed in grey home clothes, frowning at him. Liang Muqiu thought, wow, this handsome guy looks like my boyfriend. He watched the handsome guy gradually approach, reached out and touched his forehead, and asked in a low voice, "What are you doing outside? Why are you drinking so much alcohol? Aren't you afraid of catching a cold?" Liang Muqiu was stunned when she heard Sen Nan's voice. He stared at Sen Nan's face, did not answer, but blinked. He remembered, the handsome guy in front of him doesn't look like his boyfriend. This is his boyfriend. Sen Nan didn't know what the drunk was thinking, he only smelled a powdery perfume from Liang Muqiu, mixed with alcohol, as if countless people were approaching where he couldn't see Liang Muqiu. It made his heart twitch. He glanced at the gate behind Liang Muqiu and him, and vaguely guessed that the little drunk was locked out. Probably because of alcohol, Liang Muqiu changed his indifference for the past 2 days, leaned his back against the door panel, and stared at him without blinking. Liang Muqiu was also like that at that time, staring at him right and wrong, writing everything in his eyes. Sen Nan sighed, half-kneeled in front of Liang Muqiu, and discussed, "You can't enter the house, and I don't know your password. Shall I take you back to my house first?" Liang Muqiu was still staring at him, not saying good or bad. And Sen Nan didn't need an answer at all. He just asked hypocritically. Liang Muqiu was very thin, leaning against his arms, like a ginkgo leaf falling in the wind. Sen Nan didn't think very happily, and he didn't know how Liang Muqiu took care of himself. Sooner or later, he would have to feed him fatter. He took Liang Muqiu into the door, and from the entrance, the lights were bright all the way. There were 2 guest rooms in the house, but he directly carried Liang Muqiu into the master bedroom and put it on the bed. There is no bright light in the master bedroom, only the table lamp at the bedside emits a faint light. Sen Nan helped Liang Muqiu to unbutton the button, completely forgetting that he had a cleanliness addiction. He stuffed the person into the quilt, took a towel wet with hot water, wiped Liang Muqiu's hands and face, and acted carefully, like he was afraid of hurting Liang Muqiu. Liang Muqiu half opened his eyes, looking at Sen Nan through the dim light. He was really drunk. For a moment, he couldn't even tell which year and moment it was. The gentle and careful person in front of him was Sen Nan. It was the Sen Nan who held him to the top of his heart 7 years ago. It was the same Sen Nan who left, leaving him to suffer alone. He can't tell. He looked at Sen Nan attentively, and only thought that Sen Nan was born so good-looking. When Sen Nan transferred to school in the 3rd year of high school, the cicadas were noisy in the summer, and the sun shined into the house through the green shade. Wearing a white shirt, the young man was as straight as a bamboo pole, casually glanced at him who was sitting by the window. At that time, he didn't know the magic power of this eye, and he didn't know how many years he would spend on this person. He only thought quietly in his heart, this transfer boy is so good-looking. The same is true today. In the dim bedroom, he couldn't help leaning towards Sen Nan's hand, like a cat with wet fur on a rainy day, asking for some tenderness from Sen Nan's palm. He forgot all these years of waiting and torture. Only remember the temperature that this person kissed his lips. Sen Nan. He whispered and closed his eyes, Sen Nan. Sen Nan's hand trembled. His palm was against Liang Muqiu's face, very hot and soft. Since the reunion, he has longed for Liang Muqiu to call him like this countless times, looking at him with confidence again, as if the 7-year parting never happened. He endured and endured, then stiffened his arms and slowly pulled his hand away from Liang Muqiu's face. "I'll pour water for you," you can take anti-alcoholic medicine and sleep. He pretended to be calm and got up from the bed. He was afraid that if he didn't leave, he would do something that Liang Muqiu hated. The temperature on the side of the face disappeared. Liang Muqiu was lying on the bed with his eyes open blankly, his hands subconsciously grabbed forward. He watched Sen Nan leave the room, his throat seemed to be blocked with cotton. He wanted Sen Nan to stay away, his heart was suspended in the air, but he couldn't say a word. He watched Sen Nan go away, the door ajar, and he was the only one left in the bedroom. Liang Muqiu's heart fell from the air. He slowly sat up from the bed and looked at this strange and familiar bedroom, and his mind was a little sober. He looked around the room blankly, his eyes fell on the bedside table, where there was a photo frame, which framed the two young people with flying expressions. Liang Muqiu picked up the frame and took a closer look. He recognized himself as a 20-year-old in the photo, wearing a small black coat, which was not ashamedly attached to Sen Nan, smiling silly. Obviously he was taking pictures, but he didn't look at it. The camera and eyes were all glued to Sen Nan. And Sen Nan is calm, naturally noble and indifferent, but if you look closely, you will find that Sen Nan and his fingers are tightly intertwined, and there is an imperceptible smile on the corner of his mouth, softer than this spring light. Liang Muqiu looked down at the photo, he couldn't remember where it was taken. But he remembered. He is not the 18-year-old Liang Muqiu who secretly fell in love with Sen Nan. It's not the 20-year-old Liang Muqiu who was used to being lawless by Sen Nan. This is the 7th year since he broke up with Sen Nan. The reason why he had the illusion that he did not know what was going on was just because this bedroom was clearly arranged according to the bedroom of the apartment where he and Sen Nan University lived together. Liang Muqiu laughed softly, tears dripping on the photo. Sen Nan, Sen Nan. He doesn't understand. Sen Nan picked up the water outside, stood in the corridor for a while, and then returned to the bedroom with water and antidote. In Liang Muqiu's hand, he also held a photo frame that should have been on the bedside table. Sen Nan froze for a while, and had a bad feeling. But he pretended to be okay, walked over and put the tray down. Drink some water and take the medicine, or you will have a headache tomorrow. He half kneeled in front of Liang Muqiu and brought the medicine and warm water to Liang Muqiu. Liang Muqiu didn't answer. He looked at Sen Nan's open palm, the hangover medicine was white, which reminded him of the sleeping pills he couldn't take when he left Sen Nan for 2 years. He had no dreams all night. Now he can sleep without sleeping pills. He smiled suddenly, his eyes were red for some time. He asked Sen Nan, "What are you doing, Sen Nan? We didn't say that the two are irrelevant." He was laughing, but his voice was shaking. He was drunk, and he had a reason to play a drunken madness. "It doesn't count after dawn anyway." He asked, "Since you returned to China, you have been doing superfluous things. You moved across from my house and came to cook for me. I broke my hand and you bandaged me. I was drunk and you take me home. But we can't be friends, we can't be old classmates, I don't want what you do." Tears fell from his eyes, dripped on his knees, and dissolved in the black cloth, invisible. He stared at Sen Nan, "Are you guilty of me, pity me, or?" He did not go on. Both the hangover medicine and the water glass fell on the light-colored carpet. Sen Nan bullied him forward, trapping him between his arms. Sen Nan also stared at him with terrifying eyes, "I never wanted to be your friend, I just want to be your lover." Who wants to be friends? Whether it was the first meeting in high school or the reunion now, he never thought of being friends with Liang Muqiu. When he saw Liang Muqiu when he was 18, he just wanted to press him against the window and kiss him. Liang Muqiu shook in his arms. He was frightened by Sen Nan's eyes, he remembered the lie he had told for a moment, and panicked, "It's too late. I have a boyfriend." He reunited with Sen Nan. In the car, Sen Nan mistook Song Wei's phone for his boyfriend. But he heard Sen Nanji laugh contemptuously, "Kaiokyu, do you really think I didn't hear that it was Song Wei?" He approached slightly, nose to nose with Liang Mukyu. Don't say you don't have a match, even if you do, I'm going to grab it. The only person who has ever loved in this life, he is not thinking of letting go. But after meeting, he realized that it was all a joke. Who can give up his lover? I take care of you, cook for you, and be afraid that you will get sick, all because I love you. It was also my intention to move across from you. Every day I open the door, I look forward to today I can meet you and talk to you, I can be happy all day. I haven't seen each other for 7 years, he doesn't want to force Liang Mukyu too tight. But he saw the fat powder printed on Liang Mukyu's white shirt. I don't know who left it at the party, maybe it was just an idle person, but his heart was still burned into a wasteland by jealousy. He couldn't take it anymore. The gentle mask has been worn for a long time, and even he believes it, but he is clearly not such a person. No one spoke in the bedroom for a while. The water splashed on the carpet has penetrated and it has become icy cold. Liang Mukyu didn't look at Sen Nan's face. He sniffed, "Stop joking, how can we be together again? In those days I misunderstood that you were going to be engaged to Ruan Zuxian, and it was indeed my fault. But you wanted to stay abroad, so breaking up with me was not fake. What is going on with you now, do you regret it?" Liang Mukyu laughed again, he asked Sen Nan with tears in his eyes, "But why do you think that I will agree if you regret it? Did you think of me when you left? I said I can go looking for you, I can accompany you abroad. You don't want me." Sen Nan didn't want him. Where was Sen Nan when he was weeping under the tree and the materials for going abroad were scattered all over the place? "It's too late," he said to Sen Nan in a hoarse voice, "the two of us, forget it. After so many years, there is only one sentence left, forget it." Liang Mukyu took a deep breath and wiped her tears to make herself less embarrassed. He is really sober now. His hand put his hand on Sen Nan's chest and gently pushed it out. He wanted to leave, and if he stayed in this bedroom, he would be empty again. But he couldn't push Sen Nan away. His hand was firmly grasped by Sen Nan. In an instant, he was pressed on the bed, and the next second, his lips were kissed almost savagely. Sen Nan kissed him. Liang Mukyu's mind flashed this message in panic, and he struggled subconsciously. Compared with Sen Nan, his strength was never worth mentioning. He was imprisoned on the bed by Sen Nan. The bodies of two adult men were together, struggling, pushing and refusing. The silk duvet cover underneath was twisted into an unbearable shape. And Sen Nan always kissed him fiercely, he bit Sen Nan's lips, tasted the rust-like smell, this man would not let go, like a beast locked the prey, unless he died, will not loosen again. Liang Mukyu couldn't resist, her body softened and turned into a puddle of water on the bed sheet. He blinked, tears streaming down the corners of his eyes. I don't know how long it took before Sen Nan let go of him. Sen Nan was still holding his wrist tightly, looking at him condescendingly, obviously a gentle and handsome face, noble and elegant since high school, but now his lips are stained with blood, changing it was fierce and violent, like finally taking off the skin of a modest gentleman, revealing the beast hidden inside. Liang Mukyu chuckled lightly. After the reunion, Sen Nan withdrew all his sharpness in front of him and became gentle and harmless, so that he forgot that Sen Nan was never a modest and polite character. Sen Nan is the one who is full of aggressiveness now and will never give up until his goal is achieved. Sen Nan looked at Liang Mukyu who was imprisoned in his arms, the corner of his mouth was bitten by Liang Mukyu, but this trace of blood made him sober. He lowered his head, got close to Liang Mukyu, and said in a low voice, I didn't want to ask your forgiveness, I was cowardly and selfish, I cut off all our connections with my own hands and lost you 7 years. It's all my fault and I'm not going to defend myself. I just want to ask you for a chance at redemption, this time, you are the king. He looked at Liang Mukyu, his voice more magical than the siren who seduced sailors, you can torture me, look at me struggling for you, and take revenge for all the pain I gave you for the past 7 years. As long as you give me a little love, I will wag your tail and beg for mercy. He kissed Liang Muqiu, much gentler than the fierce kiss just now. Want to try, Kaiokyu? He asked. I won't resist, you can do anything to me. He smiled at Liang Muqiu, a handsome boy at the age of 18, now he has become an unscrupulous adult man. Liang Muqiu's chest heaved violently. Want to try it? Sen Nan has always pinched him to the death, and at a glance he can see the secrets he hides in his heart. He bit his lower lip, exerted his strength, pushed Sen Nan away desperately, and fled from the bed in a panic. I'm going back. This time, Sen Nan didn't stop him. Like parting at his house a few days ago, Sen Nan followed him all the way to the door, and when he opened the door in a panic, he said behind him, think about it, Kaiokyu. Liang Muqiu didn't dare to listen anymore, she twisted the door, and ran out like she ran away, not even closing the door. Sen Nan looked at him from behind the door, watching Liang Muqiu stumble all the way to escape, finally opened the door and hid in. Since he came back, he has seen Liang Muqiu's back countless times. Bang! The author has something to say, I can eat some candy later. Liang Muqiu fled home in a panic, his chest heaving violently with his breathing. It was only a 10-meter corridor, but he was exhausted like running a marathon. Edamame was probably awakened by the sound of his door closing, and a few whimpering of dissatisfaction came from the living room, and then it was quiet again. But now Liang Muqiu can't care about coaxing it. He leaned back against the door, his body arched slightly, too tired to speak. The alcohol he drank at the party seemed to still flow through his limbs, he was clearly sober, but he still felt sore all over. After resting for a while, he lifted his foot and walked in, but when he glanced over the shoe cabinet, he stopped again. On the shoe cabinet was the pen that Sen Nan gave him a few days ago. He didn't want to accept it, but he didn't want to mess with Sen Nan again, so he kept it here, pretending it didn't exist. No one cared for several days, and this gift box seemed dim. But he stared at the gift box for a while, then slowly reached out and picked it up, opened the lid. The white mother-of-pearl pen inside was still brilliant under the light, like a cold gem, also like a sleeping princess. Liang Muqiu's eyebrows were gently twisted together. Sen Nan gave him a pen because he knew he liked it, but Sen Nan never knew why he started collecting pens. He never told Sen Nan, like he kept an unknown secret. He started collecting pens because Sen Nan once held his handwriting one afternoon in his senior year. He always felt that Sen Nan's handwriting was very beautiful, vigorous, and smooth, and his own handwriting was like a chicken pecking at rice, and he would be deducted 2 points for the test paper. Sen Nan smiled, put the pen in his hand, leaned down, and held his hand, then I'll teach you. Sen Nan's breathing sound was in his ear, soothing and calm. At that time, he had already discovered that he had a crush on Sen Nan. His heartbeat was so fast that even he was afraid, and his ears could not stop burning, for fear that Sen Nan would see his mind, and that he would really see not come out. After a few minutes of confusion, he heard Sen Nan say, "Okay, let's practice." Sen Nan's hand was released from the back of his hand. He recovered in a trance and looked at the snow-white paper. On the paper it was written, "He and Sen Nan have never been foolish." But when he saw this line of words that day, he suddenly felt blessed and understood the meaning behind it. He turned his head to look at Sen Nan's eyes, suspecting that this man who was always calm actually liked himself. He guessed right. In that sunny afternoon, the heartbeat was chaotic, and he was not the only one. It has been 10 years since his senior year. Sen Nan once again said that he loves him. And like 10 years ago, he was as hopeless as a drum. Liang Muqiu stayed in the porch for a while, then took the pen and went back to the bedroom. When taking a bath, he found that his lips were also broken. When he bit Sen Nan too hard, he even bit himself together. Now the blood has coagulated, but it still hurts when he is involved. Liang Muqiu scolded shamelessly in her heart. He brushed his teeth and climbed into bed in his pajamas, but of course he couldn't sleep. It is clear that Sen Nan can no longer be seen, but in Sen Nan's bedroom just now, according to what he said, Sen Nan's kiss on his lips seems to be still in front of him. Sen Nan said that as long as he donates a little love, he can do whatever he wants to himself, no forgiveness, just a chance to pursue him. God knows how much effort it took for him to stop himself from saying good things when he was lying on Sen Nan's bed. He can deceive everyone, he can tell everyone that he doesn't love Sen Nan for a long time, and he doesn't care who Sen Nan is. But in such a quiet night, he couldn't deceive himself. He loves Sen Nan. From the time he was written by Sen Nan in his arms in the third year of high school, and now 7 years after he was broken up by Sen Nan, he has always loved this person. He didn't want to recall the stupidity he had committed in the past 7 years. Into the bed and fell asleep. But obviously, after such a thrilling day, he couldn't sleep well anyway. When she woke up the next day, Liang Muqiu was not surprised to find that she had 2 more dark circles under her eyes, and her appearance was reduced to 9 points. Liang Muqiu looked in the mirror for a while, very upset, and felt that if he continued to toss like this, he would face disfigurement sooner or later. He looked down at his watch, it was still early, it was only 6 o'clock, and he decided to buy breakfast after a long absence. When he passed the living room, Edamame hadn't woken up yet, and was sleeping soundly in the kennel. He squatted and looked at the Edamame for a while, reached out and touched the dog's son's belly, smiled, and then stood up again to prepare to go out. But he just opened the door. The sky was misty outside, and in the morning of early summer, the wind was a little cold, mixed with the humidity of vegetation. He found an unexpected visitor standing outside his house. And when he heard the sound of his door opening, this man opened his eyes like a leopard waiting for his prey. The two looked at each other and didn't rest well when they saw it. Liang Muqiu didn't even bother to think about whether Sen Nan's behavior was worth calling the police. He subconsciously took a step forward, and wanted to touch Sen Nan's hand to see if he was cold, but only when he reached out did he feel nope, back again. "What are you doing outside my door, are you a doorman?" He looked at Sen Nan in disbelief. "How long have you been here?" A moment of guilt flashed in Sen Nan's eyes, he lowered his head and did not speak. Compared to yesterday's crazy and gloomy appearance, he feels very good today, wearing a white tee, his face is pale, like a small white lotus with low eyebrows. But Liang Muqiu has long stopped eating this set. If he is fooled again, he will take the surname of Sen Nan. He couldn't wait to answer, but he had already reacted in his heart. He looked at Sen Nan in disbelief. "Aren't you, guarding me here, afraid of me leaving?" Sen Nan looked up at him, did not speak, and acquiesced. Liang Muqiu just felt ridiculous. "What time do you stay outside?" He looked Sen Nan up and down. "Are you sick? Even if you can block me for a day, can you block every day?" "I know." Sen Nan's voice was also hoarse, like a worn bamboo flute in the morning wind, "but I can't sleep, I always feel that maybe when I open my eyes, you is no longer there." He raised his eyes and looked at Liang Muqiu, the fierceness of last night faded away, and he became a gentle gentleman again during the day, just waiting for Liang Muqiu to raise his sword. It's ridiculous to say that, he just walked away and threw Liang Muqiu behind him. Now the scene is reversed, but he does not allow Liang Muqiu to do so. Liang Muqiu also obviously remembered this incident, and the corner of her mouth raised a mocking arc. He didn't want to buy breakfast anymore. He took a few deep breaths, looked out the window at the foggy mist, and looked at Sen Nan. It probably rained last night, and the humidity in the air was far higher than usual. Sen Nan stood outside his door for a long time, his face and lips were white. Liang Muqiu had no idea. For a few minutes, this corridor was almost stagnant. Liang Muqiu wanted to have a cigarette, but he only had a mobile phone in his pocket. He bit his lip and whispered, "Are you so interesting, Sen Nan? If I really want to leave, I will stay away from you. The city, or like you, go abroad and fly far away, so that you can't find me." As soon as he finished speaking, Sen Nan looked up at him in a panic, as if he wanted to say something. But Liang Muqiu didn't want to hear it. Liang Muqiu closed his eyes, suddenly burst out, grabbed Sen Nandi by the collar, pressed him hard against the wall, collided with his back against the wall, making a dull thud one sound. "I don't need you to promise me anything, I don't need you to stay outside my door like a bereaved dog, I don't care." Liang Muqiu's eyes were still red, but he stared fiercely. "Sen Nan, you said you wanted a chance to pursue me, and I'll give it to you. But as you said, we are not equal, and I will accept the pursuit of others. I can torture you, I will promise you, maybe never. I want you to get out, I want you to show up, I want you to show up." He clearly said harsh words, but he choked up when he said this, and grabbed Sen Nan's clothes in pain. He didn't hesitate or didn't understand what he said. But from the moment I saw Sen Nan in the bar, he had already lost a crushing defeat, it couldn't be more ugly. He looked at Sen Nan through gritted teeth. "I don't want to forgive you, don't listen to your difficulties, I don't want to know if you regret leaving me. I just want to get revenge on you." After he finished speaking, he let go of Sen Nan's hand, but the tears rolled out of his eyes tremblingly and slid down his face. It was him who wanted revenge. It was him who cried so pitifully. And Sen Nan looked at him for a long time. He got the result he wanted, and his Kyokiu finally softened and forgave him like the most sympathetic king, but he was not happy at all. He stretched out his hand, took Liang Muqiu into his arms, and gently kissed his crying red eyes. "Don't forgive me," he whispered, "I'm so bad, I left you alone for 7 years, don't forgive me."